Hello, everybody, where are we? Friday, 22nd of March. Hello, everybody, and it's Fiona Lukeis here coming to you live. My face looks really weird. Is this some sort of, have I accidentally pressed some sort of enhancer? It doesn't look real, does it? Hang on. I can't stand those things. I must have pressed something. That's weird. Okay. Don't know what's going on with my face today, guys. I've clearly pressed some button somewhere that's enhanced something because my face does not look like that. Anyway, I like to keep things real. So I don't know. Anyway, my apologies for that. I have definitely clicked something on this software here. I did log in a big rush because this week has been one of those weeks. My assistant's been away unexpectedly all week, and I've kind of been chasing my tail somewhat. So I did log in here very quickly, and I must have clicked something because my face does not look like this. I'm just saying, it's a smooth, it just doesn't look like that. So I don't know what's going on with that. My apologies, guys, but just want to, be upfront and say, whatever's going on with my skin, it really doesn't look like that. Anyway, hello, everyone. Fiona Lukeis here on Friday, the 22nd of March. It's a beautiful autumn day here in Melbourne. Stunning, gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous day. I know I am late today. It's just been one of those weeks. My assistant's been away unexpectedly all week, and I've been fully booked with clients, and I've been trying to do 2 jobs this week. So I have really gotten behind in a few things, one of which was I almost didn't even come on live. I went, you know what, but I hate breaking promises, and I promised I'd be here. So anyway, I'm here, albeit a little late, and with some sort of, I'm just going to say it for those of you who are just logging in, some sort of digitally enhanced skin going on here. My skin does not look this good normally. So I just want to be upfront about that. Hey, Deezer, Rose is visiting. Oh, that's so exciting. Oh, that's so lovely to hear, darling. I love to know that you guys are hanging out and having fun. Is it still snowing there? Can you still go skiing? Have you gone skiing together? Because I know Rose is, I imagine you are too, Deezer. Rose is a pretty good skier from what I hear. Anyone else who wants to say hi, please do. Love to hear from you out there in Facebook and YouTube land. I'm live on YouTube and Facebook at the moment. Oh, fantastic. You can still see. It's incomprehensible to me that you can go skiing in spring. Spring is greenery, flowers, birds. It's not synonymous with snow. Like that my brain cannot compute that. But anyway, it's lovely to know. I'm very happy for you both. Hello, I can see a few more people logging in now. Okay, so I can't be as long as I normally are today because I'm kind of squeezing this one in between a few things. As I said, my assistant's been away all week, and it has really thrown things a little bit out of whack. But I did want to come live. I did want to answer a couple of questions, and I did want to check in with you guys because I know many of you send me messages after my Friday lives and tell me how much you enjoy them and how helpful they are, and what you're learning and gaining from them, and which I really, really, really appreciate knowing. It's great to know that I'm adding value and being of service, because that's what these Friday lives are all about. So I know some of you have had your equinox this week, so that's exciting. It's a fantastic time of year. I feel like there's lots and lots of change about. And for those of you who are going into spring, and those of us who are going into autumn or fall, and then moving on into winter, it's a fascinating time of year as people go into daylight savings, people come out of daylight savings, and we all kind of switch positions, so to speak, around the world. But the one thing that still stays constant is the importance of our relationships, how we show up to them, how we handle them, how we navigate them, how we move through them. And obviously what I'm here to talk about each and every week is a simpler, easier approach. Relationships do not have to be complicated. They do not have to be hard. And anything is possible. I really do. I'm not saying everything should be possible, so please bear in mind what I'm saying here. And there's no shoulds, but anything is possible in terms of what we can generate, what we can create, what is on offer for us in terms of the level of connection we can have, how good we can feel, the amount of goodwill we generate, how quickly we get over things, our ability to be comfortable in our own skin, to be present, to listen. This is something that's on offer to us all because it's innately human. Okay, it's innately human. It's not about personality types. It's innately human. Are you grandkid free? Hey, Shani, awesome. Able to listen with one eye kind of half closed. Shani's been looking after grandkids all week, and as wonderful as that is, it's also a little bit exhausting. So enjoy the peace and the quiet, Shani. Enjoy. So yeah, if you have a question, feel free to pop it in the comments below and I will do my absolute best to answer it for you. I am going to go and just respond to something that was sent in to me recently. And this is someone who bought my ebook recently, and they said, hi, Fiona, I've been in a relationship for 7 years and we're doing badly at the moment. I see the real soft-hearted man inside and the potential of who he can be. However, he has so much baggage from his marriage, upbringing, and infidelity from the past. I see someone professionally to help me in life, so God knows that I know I'm not perfect either. But whenever I try to talk with him about anything, he gets defensive or shuts down. I then back off, not wanting to cause a fight. Is it possible to love someone more than they love themselves? How do you share your life with someone who holds on to the ghosts of relationships past? When is it time to leave? Okay, so there's a couple of questions there, and this person's also said at the start of their email, I love hard. Not often, but when I do, it's hard. So I'm guessing that means intensely. So when you do love, you love intensely. All right. So there's a few questions here and a couple of things that I want to address, and we'll kind of do those one by one. Like I said, anyone else who's just joined and wants to say hi, please do. I'd love to know where you are listening from in the world and whether this is being useful and helpful to you. So, okay. First of all, is it possible to love someone more than they love themselves? Yes, I absolutely, it is. Definitely. And, I would honestly say that is a big part of what I do. Right? A big part of what I do with my work is I will hold space for someone's greatness and I will love that person. Now that might sound strange coming from someone who's, who does this for a living and to say that about a client, but, love is the most powerful force on earth. And I know when I hold space and I come from a place of love, I give that person the greatest opportunity to see that in themselves, to see that reflected back in themselves, because that's the whole point of it, right? So I wanted to put that in there because I think it depends on what you mean by, is it possible to love someone more than they love themselves? So yes, it is. It doesn't have to be a problem. It can be. I guess the example I just gave you about what I do and hold space for is, it's not a problem for me if a client doesn't love themselves. What I'm going to do is hold space for their greatness and hold space for that without buying into their limitations and their insecurities and the other stuff that comes up, so that I can truly be a generator of that with them and a generator of that for them. Okay, so I guess it depends on, because that's an important question. It depends on what your expectations are from that. Okay, I don't have expectations of my clients, and so it's therefore easier for me to hold space. Now, some of you might be listening and say, well, that's all very good, all well and good to say that about a client, Fiona, but what about in an intimate relationship? Well, I would argue that it's exactly the same in terms of the space you come from, your capacity to hold space, and what it is you're generating, and then what it is that where your expectations are. Okay, so if you're asking me this question, and I have a feeling you may be, so I want to address that. I don't know for sure. I am making assumptions, absolutely. Hey, Brian. Oh, my goodness. Hey, everyone. Hey, Fiona. Lovely to hear from you, Brian. It's been a while. I was actually thinking about you the other day. Hey, Wendy. Hi, darling. So nice to hear from you. It really is. Oh, you're a star. Oh, thank you, Wendy. That's very kind of you to say so. And you are too, darling. Of course, you are, very much so. And Craig, Hi, Fiona, listening while painting here in Adelaide. Okay, fantastic, Craig. Enjoy the painting. Thanks for saying hi. Really appreciate it. So lovely to hear from people out there and know that there are people actually listening to this. Okay, so I just want to come back to that first part of this. Is it possible to love someone more than they love themselves? Yes, but it doesn't have to be a problem if you don't have expectations of what that would look like, right? So if I have expectations of, well, I'm going to love you a lot, that means you need to do something in return. You need to be a certain way in return. You need to show up a certain way in return. Then can you see how that becomes a problem? And when you don't have expectations, and it is possible to love someone more than they love themselves without expectation, by the way, but that depends on what your overall intention is, okay? Now, intention is everything. So if your overall intention is, I'm going to love this person so much that they love me back, or they do something in return, or they are a certain way with me, then you've got a different intention to someone who's holding space, because my intention is I want them to see the truth of who they really are. I want them to see their own greatness, their own magnificence. I'm going to love that person so much that the reflection of that is so strong that they can't help but see it, right? So there's two different ways you can come from in regards to that. So yes, it is possible to love someone more than they love themselves. It doesn't have to be a problem though, because it just depends on the intention or the expectation that you have if you are finding that you are in that situation. Now, the other thing I want to add to that is, if you're in a situation where you're loving someone more than they love themselves and you're over-functioning and becoming the rescuer of that person, that is most definitely a problem. And you do not want to be doing that. Okay? So there's a couple of things that I just want to mention about that first part of that statement, or the first question that's been asked here by this person, because I think it's really important. If loving someone more than they love themselves means you are over-functioning and you are rescuing and you're doing their emotional regulating and all of that stuff, that absolutely is a problem. You will wear out. You will get exhausted. You will get resentful. You'll get to a point where it's not sustainable, right? So it is possible to love someone more than they love themselves, yes, and it's possible to do so in a sustainable way that doesn't drain doesn't drain your energy, and doesn't drain you to the point where you are resentful, burnt out, and exhausted. Okay, so that's the first thing I want to say. So, how do you share your life with someone who holds on to the ghosts of relationships past? Great question. That's a really great question. How do you share your life with someone who holds on to the ghosts of relationships past? And that's very common out there. It really is. I'm living in the mountains and now have Starlink, living the dream. Awesome. Good for you, Brian. That sounds incredible. Good for you. I guess if you've got someone who is living in the past, okay, just someone whose mind is often in the past, I guess there's a couple of things here. It's important to sit down with that person, and especially if you're in a relationship with them, and have a conversation when you're in a good feeling. Don't do it when you're not in a good feeling. People make the mistake of having these conversations when they're not in a good feeling, and it goes sideways every time. Because the feeling you're in has a big impact on your tone, your body language, on your level of emotional intelligence, everything. Okay, so don't have these conversations when you're not in a good feeling. Have them when you're in a good feeling. Okay, because you have a higher level of emotional intelligence. You have more bandwidth. You have more emotional capacity. You are patient, understanding. Like, it's just night and day in terms of what you generate. Okay, very, very important. You want to be able to have a conversation when you're in a good feeling, and you want to talk about what it is that you want to create together. So if you're in a relationship with someone who focuses on the past a lot, you want to sit down and say, and you don't want it to be too heavy either, but you want to have a conversation about, what would you like to create? Where do you see us going? What would you like to create? And I'm not necessarily talking about in terms of marriage or living together or things like that, but more in terms of how you want to feel around each other. Okay, How do you want to feel? What is the feeling you want to create together? Because the feeling is the baseline of your relationship, right? Okay, really it is. It's the baseline of everything. So how do you want to feel is very important. And what's the feeling you want to generate together? And then, once you've got clear on that, then you can ask them, well, do you think when you're going back into the past that puts us in the right place to create that? Right? Or have you realized how much you go back into the past? Because some people don't know that we are our own biggest blind spot. Okay. We are our own biggest blind spot. So people don't realize perhaps that their thinking is focused a lot on the past, because, as you've heard me say, when you normalize something, it becomes invisible. So you've got to have a conversation that's based on curiosity when you're in a good feeling, and you're talking about what you want to generate together. So I would be having that kind of a conversation first, and then seeing where the conversation goes from there. All right. I think that's also super, super, super important. Okay, next part of the question. When is it time to leave? Another really good question. And I get asked this question a lot. And I guess there's not one clear answer to that. There's not one clear answer. It's a very personal journey, okay? It's a very, very personal journey. So, this is not necessarily a one size fits all, but one thing I will say is, if you're not sure if you're in a relationship and you're not sure if you want to be there, okay? And you're not sure if you want to be there, wait and see how you feel when your mind is settled, okay? Not when your mind is racing and you're upset. Wait and see how you feel when your mind settles, because that's when you have access to the best thinking available to you. That's when your mind is clearest. And you want to make a decision like that from clarity of mind. When our mind is racing and we're upset, we don't have clarity of mind. And so we can't see things as clearly as we like. What's in our best interest, what our inner guidance system is telling us, not just what our senses are telling us. Okay. So when our mind's racing, our senses are telling us something. But when our mind settles, we're better able to hear what our inner guidance system is telling us as well, because there's two places to draw information from, right? There's your senses and there's your inner guidance system. And you need to be tapping into both, not just one. Most people are just tapped into their senses and not their inner guidance system. I can't tell you how important this is. Your relationship with that is so crucially important. It's it's a controversial statement, important relationship in your life, believe it or not, because your inner guidance system knows you better than you do, and it knows what's best for you, and it operates from love, not fear, and so it holds space for that for you, and you very much want to be tuned in and listening to that. This is true of all of us, for men, women, human beings all over the world. This is very, very, very important. Okay, and you're not as well positioned to hear that when your mind's racing and you're upset. All right. You're more positioned to hear what your senses are telling you, what your egocentric mind is telling you, which is not always a greater source of information. So you want to wait till your mind is settled. And I really find that if I'm in a good feeling with that person, so I'm not angry, I'm not upset, I've let everything go, and it still looks like a good idea for me to leave, then that's a pretty good indicator that it's time to go, right? You've just got clarity. It's just, there's a sense of groundedness and calm, and you look at it and you say, you know what? Yeah, it's just time for me to go. You're not running away from something specifically, although it's okay if you are. This is what I mean. There's no rule of thumb. But to me, I always like to make decisions like that when I'm in the best frame of mind possible. Okay? When I'm in the best frame of mind possible. So that would be my answer to that. And also, I think it's important to ask yourself this, and people don't ask themselves this question enough. How do you want to feel? Because the quality of the feeling you live in determines the quality and standard of your life, right? Because that's how you get to experience life. This is not a question people ask themselves enough, right? And so once you have clarity on that, you can then look at the relationship and say, is that a match for what I want to generate and create for myself, right? And if it's not, then you want to say, well, what do I want to do about that? Do I want us to go and get help and talk to someone that where we may be able to turn that around, because you'd be amazed at what's possible, and it is possible. And you want to, I think also when it's time to leave, you want to be able to look inside yourself and know that you've done everything you could. I think that's incredibly important, to be able to look inside yourself and say, I've done everything I could. I really have. I've left no stone unturned. It's just time for me to go now, right? I think when you don't have clarity around that as well, it can really muddy the waters and people can have a lot of regret. So if you're at that point where you're not sure, that is a wonderful place to move forward from, where you know you've done everything you could. Now, if you haven't sought external help, you haven't done everything you could. I think a big mistake people make is they say, oh, we can work it out ourselves. And, I think relationships are one of those things where it's really tricky to do that, because you need someone who's neutral, a neutral third party coming in and helping you see things that you can't see. Because like I said before, we are our own biggest blind spot. So we just can't see things about ourselves. We really can't. And, you need, and so obviously then we keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, and people fall into that habit. So I think that's a big, a long-winded answer, I guess, to your question, but there's no straightforward answer to that, right? You want to make sure that you've got the best thinking possible, you've got clarity of mind, and you want to make sure that if you're finding that the relationship is not a match for where you want to go, then you've got to ask yourself that question, what am I prepared to do about that? And, if you've been together a long time, do you want to invest in seeing someone like myself or similar to get the help that you need? And so that you can look yourself in the mirror as you move forward, look yourself in the eye and say, I did everything I could. That is a feeling that gives you an incredible amount of conviction as you move forward, and you grieve the end of that relationship, because there's always going to be a grieving process. Okay, generally there's a grieving process, and sometimes that grieving process can convince you that you've made a mistake. Okay, this is why when you know that you've covered every possible, or you've left no stone unturned, that helps you navigate your way through that. All right. Now, one other thing that I want to address today, because I've had a few people asking me this question. I've had a few people saying to me, Fiona, how do we know when we're getting help? And we know, a lot of people have said, I know there's a real mixed bag of what's on offer out there. When we're getting help, how do we know, right, that person is right for us? What are the things that we want to look for when we're getting help? Okay. And because I think this is important, I'm a big believer in how you set something up determines the success of it. Very, very much, which is why, whenever I'm speaking to a couple or someone who's potentially looking to work with me, I speak to both people so that they have a chance to meet me. I have a chance to meet them. We kind of get a bit of a sense of each other, and they can get an idea of, well, do I want to spend time with this person? Do I think this person can help me? Can I relate to them? Do I feel comfortable with them? Like, these are really important things, because if you don't feel comfortable with someone, you're not going to open up and share what you need to share, and you're not going to necessarily take on board what they have to say. The other thing is, so that there are a couple of things that I think are important, hence why I make the time to meet people and connect with them and talk to them and get a feel for where they're at, what they need, and ask them some questions so I can get a sense of what matters to them, what they want to generate together, what's important. And I can also then, by meeting with them, get a feel for, I guess, how easy, I know that might sound strange, this is going to be to turn things around, because things are generally easier to turn around than you might think. They really are. I know that's not easy to see when you're sitting here at the bottom of what looks like a really big mountain, when it looks like, that you don't have anything in common, when you're on opposite sides. It feels like you're in two different countries. Maybe there's no intimacy. Maybe you're sleeping in separate bedrooms. And, you you're dreading coming home because you're scared or wondering what kind of a mood they're in, and you're in that place, and you're having someone like me say, actually, it's a lot easier to turn things around than you realize. And I know that can be hard to get your head around, but a couple of things I want to address around that. Everybody has this extraordinary switch inside them. Okay, we all do. We have this switch that no one is immune to that switch. Okay, that when you turn it on, and you turn it on in a way that's sustainable, that is powerful, that has that person feel empowered, where that person can see their own capacity to generate something. When you turn that switch on, when someone turns that on, it is unbelievable how all the stuff that they've been holding on to starts to fall away, how they get to show up with this purity. I know that might sound like pie in the sky stuff, but it is. It's a purity of being. It's a purity of love. The judgment falls away. The fear falls away. And they start to really want to generate that with someone. And, it's fear that holds us back, that gets us stuck, and where we think, oh, no, we've got nothing in common. It's not possible. We're too different. Your personality type's wrong for me, all of those things. But I really want you to know, when you flick this switch, those things stop becoming a thing, because they're really not as big of a thing as you think they are. They just become a thing when people get stuck and scared, okay? Because they look like the blocks that are in the way. But when those things are put down, and that's what happens when you flick a switch, it's quite extraordinary what someone generates and the feeling that they can bring to another human being. And that feeling starts to be generated, not filtered through the lens of the past, not filtered through the lens of all of the problems, but filtered through the lens of the now, filtered through the lens of love, potential, possibility. It's really quite amazing. And then from there, it evokes something in someone else, right? And people can generate something very, very quickly because they're not wading through all the mud of the past and the problems. It doesn't mean those things won't get handled. They do. But they get handled from a completely different space, right? They get handled from a completely different feeling. This is very, very important. So, when it comes to choosing someone that's right for you, you want it to be someone that you both feel comfortable with. You're not dragging the other person along, that it's a decision that you make together, and that you feel this is someone you feel comfortable with, you relate to, that you think can help you. And the other thing is, this is very important, is that this person needs to be neutral, okay? They need to be neutral. I've said to my clients, if I'm in a session with you and you tell me that your wife gambled away the house, or your husband gambled away the house, in my next session with them, that is not something that is going to be prevalent in my being with them at all. Not at all, okay? That will not be a thing in my being. I will be neutral. There will be nothing in how I show up from that's going to permeate that session, because I know that will limit what that other person sees and hears, right? So it's really important that the person is neutral. You don't ever want to be feeling like there is a bias. The job of someone like me is to be neutral and not have bias. There should be no bias. I am not here to be in the middle of anything, right? I'm here to be a sounding board for both of you. This is also very important. So it has to be neutrality. And you also need to be, I think, learning something that helps you move forward. You're not just talking about the problem, okay? So there's to be something there where you're learning and generating something that's going to actually move the needle, as I call it, where it has you actually move forward and you feel like you've got some practical ideas and ways of doing that, of dealing with each other's frailties, of creating emotional intimacy, of generating goodwill, right? Of being able to truly listen, because these are the things that move the needle. These are the things that make a difference, okay? Being able to look at each other with fresh eyes, very important. It is possible to see someone with fresh eyes, even if you've been together with them for 30, 40 plus years, okay? 20, 30, 40 plus years. Very, very, very possible. I see this all the time with my students and clients. I have experienced this myself with my own husband. So these things are possible. So you want to make sure you're talking to someone who's holding space for that, right? Who's holding space for that, who doesn't buy into your limitations. And it's absolutely not okay for someone to turn around and say, I think you guys should just separate, right? That's something that if you're going to come to that place, you come to it yourselves, but it shouldn't be. So personal opinions of someone like me should not be getting involved. There should not be a personal opinion because this is not about me, right? These are all things that if I was looking for help, if my husband and I needed help and I needed to go find help, these would be my criteria for the person that would be right for us. Okay. And if you've just logged on, I've just answered a question because I get asked this question a lot. What's the criteria? How do I know when I'm finding the right person who can actually help us? If you're out there and you know you need help and you're at that point where you're questioning the relationship and you don't want to leave a stone unturned. Okay. And I think it's really important that people get help because you can't solve this stuff on your own generally. You just can't. Why? Because people get too stuck in their thinking. They get too emotional. They start operating from assumptions. They get caught up in the past. They get stuck in a low feeling. They don't know how to generate goodwill. And it just becomes really hard. It doesn't have to be that hard. All right. So anyway, I hope this has been helpful, guys. Like I said, I'm not able to speak as long as I normally do because I've got a lot going on today, but I just wanted to jump in, answer a couple of questions, add value where I can, tell you all I think you're amazing. And, quick plug for Relatable, because I always like to do a quick plug for Relatable, my Relatable program. We cover all of this stuff and more. So if you'd love to join us, we are, you can book a chat with me, find out all about it and see if it's right for you. But Relatable's amazing. It's my life's work, my passion, my everything. I love it. I just released a brand new module last night. So everyone just got that last night, which I'm very excited about. I can't wait to hear how they move through that. So I'm running some extra classes for my students around that module that I just released last night. So, but anyway, sending you all lots of love. If you want to have a chat, I will put it in the link below. If you have a question, please send it to hello@fionalukeis.com.au and I will answer it for you the next time I go live on Facebook and YouTube. All right, everybody, have a fantastic week. Oh, actually, before I go, next week is Good Friday. I will not be here next Friday. It's Good Friday. I won't be live next Friday, so I'll see you in 2 weeks' time. All right, everyone. Oh, but if you're on my mailing list, I'll still send out a relationship roundup like I do every Friday, where I send out a recording of this to everyone on my email list and with some highlights of the live. So that will still be going out. All right, everyone. Lots of love. Thanks for your questions. Thanks for being here. See you next week. Ciao.